Hey everybody, how we all doing today? This is JaySquatch Gaming, and I'm Jay. Welcome to Rimworld, Episode 5. So we're going to start off putting an electric tailor bench in. We have entered autumn, so it's going to start getting a little bit colder nowadays, and eventually we are going to end up in winter. It's going to be very cold, so it would be very helpful for us to be able to at least have the ability to make some warm clothes. In the meantime, we do have a meteoroid who's landed. It's just marble, so nothing special, but we've got some compacted machinery and steel over there, which might be of help to us later on. We've taken special care to make sure that the electric tailor bench is in fact connected to the electric supply. Our first sculpture has been completed rather, as well. So we'll have Phoebe install that in the dining room, hopefully pretty that up a little bit. And just in time for the tailor bench to be finished up, we're going to set that to make a few toques, a couple of warm hats for them, that'll help stave off the autumn cold for sure, and a couple of parkas just in case we need them. Now I don't think we have the resources, but once we get them, they'll start making them for us. The rest of the day is relatively uneventful. Everybody's already heading off to bed. Now, unfortunately, our central heating systems kind of heated the place up a little too much. So we're going to open or close some of the vents into the base. We're going to open up that door that's going to allow some of that heat to escape as well. After that, we're going to install some more vents, which is going to let the heat kind of flow throughout the base more evenly. Hopefully both keeping it a little cooler in the colonists' bedrooms and a little warmer the rest of the base. And in the early afternoon of the same day, we got another little surprise in store for us. It seems someone has escaped another one of the bandit colonies there. They're 77 years old, though. They're asking for help, but unfortunately, I don't know if that's really going to be worth it for us, seeing as they're so old. That can come with a lot of possible health effects. He may have a blocked artery or dementia or something along those lines. And the construction on our base defenses, well, initial base defenses at least, have been completed. So ideally, they'll all try and have a run at us, and stand up stepping on the traps there before they can even reach us. We have an eclipse come into effect, but that's not going to affect us too much. We don't have any solar power, after all. And we're going to change around our farm section a little bit right here. With winter coming up, we are going to need a lot of cloth. So hopefully we can increase the size of our cotton here and get at least one harvest out of it before winter finally comes around. And then we'll be able to make the parkas for all of our colonists as well and keep them nice and toasty. After that, everybody's off to bed. Preparation for the next day. Now, in the night, we have a toxic fallout come into effect. Well, that's rather unfortunate. This is going to affect us pretty heavily after all. It's kind of an indiscriminate amount of time that this can stand around. And essentially what it does is anytime our colonists are in an outdoors and unroofed area, they'll start gaining up they'll start building up a form of poison over time, I guess. And that will affect them slowly at first, but it grows over time, and while they're inside, it goes away, but not nearly as quickly as it accumulates while you're inside. So that said, we are going to have to set a new restriction zone pretty much only including the interior of our house. We're just going to name it the Fallout Zone. Pretty simple. And we're going to expand that to contain both the workshop area and the home base. Now this is going to include the animals as well. They can be and will be affected by the toxic fallout. So we're going to want to keep them inside as well. It is a slow build-up, but over time it can completely debilitate your colonists. And as that solar eclipse comes out, you can really see that kind of nasty green tinge that the toxic fallout gives everything. It really does kind of make it seem like you'll get them sick if they go outside. We've got another drop pod come down, but we're still not looking for anybody else, especially now when our farming is going to be hindered pretty heavily, and we may or may not even have enough food to support ourselves as it is. Now our research on smithing is almost complete, and I'd like to get started on hydroponics, but we're so close that we may as well just let it finish out. And there it is. We switch over to hydroponics. And now, once we finish researching that, it's going to allow us to grow plants indoors. And while that may not be particularly viable at this exact moment, depending on how long this toxic fallout goes on, it may be essential for our survival to be able to grow food. It does, however, require a metric ton of power, so we would have to expand our electric production, but we haven't quite hit that point yet. It's not even finished researching. Now here you can see the toxic buildup kind of come into effect. It's rather low on Dupree right now. We have set him to stay outside and do a little bit of work, bringing in all of the food that he can while we can. And that's followed by another drop pod. Some pretty impressive stats, but nothing we really need. Like I said, food is going to get scarce if this drags on for too long. Even the animals, if we go out and hunt one of them, will instantly start to decay and become inedible. And for the time being, we'll set everybody outside. Well, maybe not everybody. Mal can stay in. As you can see, it's not going to kill them right away, but it's gone up about maybe 5% on Dupree since we last checked. Now everybody settles in once again for a good night's sleep. And here it is. See, the toxic buildup has hit critical levels. They're at 90%. They're already dead. That one also has dementia, but I don't believe that's related to the toxic fallout. And just a couple of days later, the worst of the toxic fallout has settled down. We can let everybody back outside again, including the animals. So that was a relatively short one. And games that I've played, they have gone on for a season or two at least, I would say. That was very straining on our food sources. Luckily for us, it wasn't much of an issue. And we're going to put some stone tile down in the dining room. Not only is that going to increase the general beauty of it, but it'll also be less flammable. So on the chance that it does set on fire, we don't have to worry about it spreading nearly as much. And some chunks of spacecraft I've impacted as well. Those are great because they contain both components and raw steel. So I like to save those for a rainy day. Maybe when the colonists are bored, or when we're particularly low on either of those resources. The rest of the day is relatively uneventful, except we discover some steel that we left out. I'm not sure why that ended up being restricted, but hey, more for us. And I suppose now's the time to deconstruct those ship chunks that I was talking about. I know it hasn't been terribly long, but we've got a few and we've got plenty of storage space left over. So we may as well add that onto the queue. Things are getting very chilly now. We're going to open those vents back up and close that door. With the vents completed, essentially feeding air throughout the entire base, I think it'll be a little bit more manageable having the heat set that way, especially being so close to winter when the temperatures will drop even further. Construction on the floors of the dining hall are coming along well. You can see the general base is starting to look more like a home and less like a hovel. Everybody's got their beds. We got lights in the rooms. It's warm. We're not doing too bad. We got plenty of food this time too, at least for now. Now it would be nice to start having some larger, more effective sculptures added in. So we're going to set that up as a queue on the sculpting bench. However, we are going to set it as only wood, as that's relatively renewable. It's very quick to work with, and its beauty stat isn't too bad. Now we did miss one piece of our defenses here. So we've got that little opening down to the south, and while I'm sure nobody is too keen on running through all that water, we're going to set up a few bridges that we're going to build walls on top of, and hopefully stop anybody from even trying it. That will essentially funnel them through our traps, as they have nearly no other choice but to go that way. This mountain has really worked out for us in terms of setting up the defenses. This was really easy. I barely had to spend any stone on it, which means we can build some really thick walls around the areas that we did build. And Debris has has an inspired trade here. And I figure things are pretty stable right now. We may as well send them out. We have a selection of nearby other colonies that we can trade with, but we want to try and trade with some neutral colonies. We don't have any friends yet. But if I'm not mistaken, the neutral ones will give us better prices on what we trade over, say, someone who is our enemy. We're going to set Dupree to go. We're going to send him all on his own. It's not too far after all. Some of the excess food can go out with him. That'll be nice because you can both eat that on the way there and sell a little bit off once we arrive. And a little bit of extra leather that we don't really have much use for in such small quantity. Psychite tea can go. I don't have any intention of using too many drugs. Drug addiction just causes a lot of problems for us. And that plasteel knife. So we're going to send him to visit both places down there. They're right next to each other, so why not? Total time of 0.8 days, so he should be there and back in no time at all. We may as well throw in the rest of the leather too. He's got plenty of carry capacity left over, and I don't really see us using it anytime soon. So we'll send him off. He's going to automatically collect everything from the storage areas. Both the food and the other assorted things we have in the workshop. And we're off to the races. At this point, once he leaves the map, we won't really have to worry about him too much, unless somebody decides to attack him on the way. that's all I've got for you today, folks. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you did. I really appreciate the comments especially. It's good having some interactions with you folks so I know what you liked and what you didn't like and all that. But, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.